Bonsoiri, and welcome to Ches Garbage, where we roast only the finest trash each anime season has to offer. I know that many of you were upset at the lack of isekai on our winter menu, but worry not. The trash chefs of the anime industry have heard your complaints and overcompensated like there's no tomorrow. Which there may actually not be, for those of you brave enough to try our dessert. That anime is truly vile. But before we get there, we'll be stuffing down 5 courses of isekai badness, plus a harem horse d'oeuvres to get you started. And we've even got some non-portal fantasy trash in stock as a substitute for the isekai intolerant among you. We've got a mountain of trash to dig into this evening, so let's get digging after this word from our sponsor. Figurama collectors, makers of the finest collectibles known to anime, are back again with one of the coolest pieces they've ever put out. Revy from Black Lagoon leaping over a table guns akimbo after a poker game gone wrong. Built from meticulously painted and textured polystone, PVC, and resin at a whopping 1/4 scale, this elite solo statue is the ultimate tribute to anime's most badass bad girl. And with 3 swappable headpieces, you get to choose between smoking as she smokes dudes, reloading with her teeth, or even letting her hair down if you're feeling extra crazy. As with all Figurama pieces, the base here is just as beautiful as Revy herself, covered with scattered cards and cash and bursting beer bottles. But this base is extra special, with 2 fully removable, life-size replicas of her custom sword cutlass Berettas built in for all your cosplay and nice gun staring at needs. Only 500 of these babies are being made, and Figurama statues tend to sell out in under 24 hours, sometimes less than 1. So make sure to set your alarm for May 27th at 11 p.m. JST, that's 7 a.m. Pacific, and join the waitlist at the link below to be there right when pre-orders open. When they do, you can get Revy and her guns for $30 off with code MBBLR and save an additional $45 on shipping using Amazon Pay. That said, let's get into the trash. Our first anime of the evening may not be an isekai, but if you told me the Cafe Terrace and its goddesses fell out of a time warp, I'd believe it. If you miss the humor and vibes of harems from the mid-2000s, but not their limp-dicked wet blanket protagonists, this one's for you. After inheriting his grandmother's house and the attached beachside cafe, Tokyo U finance douche Hayato Kasukabe is shocked to discover the property comes with 5 nubile young squatters who Granny took in to fill the void after he left. All of whom will do anything, perhaps even that, to stop him from turning the place into a beachside parking lot. But if you've seen even one of these shows before, you won't be shocked, even a little, by the personalities in his harem starter pack. You got the angy but sometimes not one, the dumb sports one, the cute yet crafty one, the cool aloof one who's secretly a softie, and the shy nice one who's secretly a freak. I initially put this one in the bargain bin of the ones to watch because I was thoroughly impressed by the quality of its first episode's plot, and the story of that episode hinted at some decent character writing to match. Unfortunately, that plot degrades somewhat along with the rest of the animation from episode 2 onward, but the character chemistry stays strong, and the overarching story about maintaining a small business and a tight-knit community and carrying on a lost loved one's legacy with a quirky newfound family is interesting and unusually adult for this ostensibly adult-oriented genre. That story still gets interrupted on a regular basis by nonsensical jokes about the girls taking their defining traits to absurd extremes and or flashing protag-kun for no reason in particular. This show ain't out to rock the harem anime boat, but all those girls have hidden depths to them that are revealed in time, and Hayato's actually got a personality and a bit of a backbone, which makes for a refreshing change of pace from your typical Keitaro or Kazuya. Cafe Terrace and its goddesses doesn't quite have the same special spark as Tezuka Productions' last harem thing, Quintessential Quintuplets, but if you're looking for a tasty snack, this show has 5. I give it 2 modest restaurant waste bins full of slightly stale breadsticks and half-eaten cake. The first of your 5 isekai courses for this evening, the pottage, attempts to freshen up the otherworldly formula that even trash connoisseurs are growing tired of at this point in a simple yet potentially effective way, by doubling the heck down. Summoned to another world for a second time asks what would happen if a typical Japanese youth who got called to be the savior of a fantastical parallel plane, then sent back home as a reward for his good deeds, got called back again to do it all over, this time in front of all his classmates, with all the OP skills that he had the first time, of course. It's an Isekai New Game Plus, if you will, or Ari Ferretta without any of the setup or interesting personality, if you won't. Now, at first, the answers it finds to that question are fairly entertaining, like when the aloof captain of the Royal Guard assigned to train all the classmates realizes who Protag-kun is and immediately goes full Konosuba darkness horny sub mode for him, begging him to sit on her. That's pretty fun, as are the bits of him sitting around with his old adventuring party, reminiscing about the good old days and trying to figure out how to bring the good old days back, in moderation. Unfortunately, from episode 2 onward, in which Protag-kun agrees to escort a jeweler's granddaughter to the Demon Queen to return a brooch that he originally gave her as a present, but then she had to get it sent out for repairs, it quickly becomes apparent that catching up with old pals is his primary method of solving all the anime's problems. Which I guess makes sense. I mean, he's already saved the world and made friends with all the important people, so all he's got to do is call in some favors with everyone who puts respect on his name and flex on the few fools who don't until the day is saved, but that doesn't make it a fun or interesting plot device. The concept of this show certainly has potential, but the execution here is just excruciatingly boring. Isekai again gets one wastebasket full of emails to former co-workers clearing up minor miscommunications that were printed out and framed for some reason. I left that last show on the menu for the isekai purists, but I'd honestly recommend substituting it for our I can't believe it's not isekai option, The Legendary Hero is Dead. A light yet deeply trashy dish steeped in the delicious flavors of anime girl thigh and daikon radish, which are practically indistinguishable from certain camera angles once you slip a stocking on them. That's our hero, not to be confused with the legendary one, radish farmer Toka Scott's favorite hobby, because when you're a thigh gap fetishist in a small town and your caked up childhood friend won't give you the time of day because she has a crush on the legendary hero, there's not much else to do. He does get a chance to win Yuna's heart when the village is attacked by a demon, but before he can lure it into a pit trap with sumptuous barbecue, the hero swoops in to save the day first, then swiftly gets killed in that pit trap because, like all shonen protags, Sion Blandon's a sucker for meat. Fortunately for the otherwise doomed world, Sion's traveling companion, Henri the Necromancer, has a backup plan and plants the soul of the clever warrior who bested the hero in combat by accident inside his magically destined body to carry on his destiny of sealing off the demon realm for good. Unfortunately, not only is Toka a total scumbag, he's also got the power level of a literal baby and can't even muster the magic to keep the skin from falling off his borrowed bones, let alone get his legendary sword up. Not even when he needs to get it up to save that childhood friend who seems to have that Fire Force girl's curse where she can't keep her clothes on for any given fight scene. Now, as it's finding its feet, this anime's humor is pretty bog standard, if a touch more morbid than your typical ecchi fantasy harem thing, and its pacing remains kind of a mess throughout. But by the time we're introduced to the villainous thigh bone fetishist who wants to bring equality to the world by turning everyone into sexy skeletons, it's revealed its own very distinct and fun personality that seriously sets it apart from most of the genre and most isekai, and fully lives up to its infectious banger of an OP. I give The Legendary Hero is Dead 4 flaming coffins, the trash can for people full of stupid sexy root vegetables and bootleg Necronomicons. For the Poisson course, we are, of course, serving up the fishiest title of the season, My One-Hit Kill Sister. An anime that gives you everything that name promises and so much more. Both in the sense that it is exponentially incestier than you can possibly imagine, starring an older sister down so bad for her little bro that she literally beats herself into a coma just to grope him again after his fateful date with Truck-kun, but also in the sense that it goes way harder than a show with that concept has any right to. As far as jokes go, the one of puny little protag-kun paying OPO Nachon in heavy petting sessions to protect him from big scary monsters becomes routine like halfway through episode 1. The bit where everyone else gives him credit for all the cool stuff she does and all the ladies are constantly gagging for him is even more predictable than that, and adding a second, slightly less OP demonic older sister figure who also wants to jump his bones as her rival doesn't exactly mix things up. But then, anytime you're tempted to roll your eyes at any of that, you risk missing some of spring's most insanely beautiful action sakuga. When OPO Nachon f***s an orc or dragon or slightly less OP demonic surrogate Nachon up, she them up like Goku going to town on a dude who just killed Krillin. And that's just for insulting her beloved little bro. Woe betide any fool who actually lays a hand on him or gets in the way of him laying hands on her. Fans of gorgeously gratuitous cartoon violence will not want to miss this one. Even if the quality of the production and animation in the last couple episodes doesn't quite live up to the first few, the storyboards and general compositions of the action scenes are still phenomenal. I give My One-Hit Kill Sister 3 dumpsters full of flaming piles of money and Alabama marriage licenses. If the true meat of the trashy isekai experience lies in how it panders to the wishes and anxieties of its nerdy loser target audience, then by far the meatiest entry that I can serve you this season has got to be I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world, too. In introducing its protag-kun Yuya, cheat skill makes sure that target audience knows exactly 2 things about him. Firstly, he's a really nice guy, the nicest guy, TM, who will bravely step in to save a beautiful milady when she's being hit on and grabbed at by convenience store thugs, and no one else will say a word. Secondly, he is the fattest guy, and also the ugliest, possibly even uglier than he is fat, and everyone bullies him for being so fat and ugly, especially his own family, because they're all hot, and his uggo-chubbo-ness brings great shame upon them. Also, his grandpa, who was the only person who ever saw past his ugly fatness to like him ever, bequeathed his house to him, and only him, which made his family hate him even more and disown him harder. So now he lives alone, subsisting on a part-time job that he loses on middle school graduation day because it conflicted with his scheduled beating by his siblings for being too fat and ugly. So he punches the bathroom wall and in the process uncovers his grandpa's secret treasure room with an isekai portal in it, like you do, and upon stepping through that portal, he magically inherits another house, this one magic, on the other side, which also has a bunch of OP magic weapons in it, and you get some OP skills just for signing the deed. And by using those weapons and skills to kill the OP monsters that can't cross his OP magic fence, he levels up a whole bunch, causing him to spontaneously become superhuman and also tall, skinny, and hot when he goes to bed. Which of course pisses off his bullies and siblings even more when they see him again in high school, but before they can beat him up for that, the milady that he nice guyed out of trouble earlier shows up in a limo, and it turns out she's the daughter of the principal of the bestest school in Tokyo, where he's invited because he's such a nice guy and he doesn't think he'll fit in there, but then everyone wants to be his friend. Not long after that, he goes to the mall to get some nice clothes to go with his new nice face and body, and gets scouted to be a model by a photo shoot that happens to be there, but then the male model that he was brought in to replace shows up, and and is a jerk and a bully and hits on a milady model who didn't want to be hit on, so he beats that guy up and everyone claps. Then his middle school bullies show up to his new high school with their motorcycle gang to beat him up and kidnap the hot principal's daughter who wants to be his girlfriend, but he beats them up instead and everyone claps. Then he gets a magic puppy dog in the other world and takes it for a walk in the park where he runs into that milady plus the model milady who start low-key catfighting over him, but then a purse snatcher snatches a purse, so he and his dog have to catch him, and say it with me now, everyone claps. Also, while all that's happening in the real world, a princess in the other world is on his ass to marry her, and every monster that he kills just conveniently drops very specific and useful things like a portable transforming magic hot tub. I honestly don't know if I've ever seen an isekai this nakedly self-indulgent that wasn't hentai. Heck, the way it's barely animated with loads of digital parallax camera pans over oddly shiny static artwork, it's easy to mistake for hentai, even if the most sexual thing Cheat Skill IRL actually does is the author furiously rubbing his own self-insert protag-kun raw. The friction of which specifically is what ignited the full-blown 5-alarm dumpster fire rating that I have chosen to award this glorious piece of anime. That, regrettably, makes a perfect segue into the aristocrat's otherworldly adventure, serving gods who go too far. So I'm forced to commit a slight fox pass here by serving the season's cheesiest dish before the sorbet. If your main gripe about a typical isekai is that protag-kun doesn't get his dick ridden nearly enough, metaphorically speaking, then this is the anime for you. If you mean that literally, try Slave Harem. After getting between a convenience store robber's knife and some cute girls, Kazuya Shina finds himself reborn as Kine von Silford, third son of a generic noble family in a generic fantasy world where he enjoys a generic upbringing, learning magic on the down low as he's doted on by his parents and a sister so obsessed with him that she literally has a special obsessed with her brother title on her status screen, until his baptism at age 5, when all 7 of the world's gods give him level 10 blessings, which is perhaps a little bit OP, considering that most people get 1 or 2 blessings max, and their levels are supposed to cap out at 5. So even when his parents hire both a dollar store Eris Grey Rat and a dollar store Roxy Sylphie hybrid to tutor him in magic and adventuring and stuff, all they can really do is sit on the sidelines talking about how awesome Kind-sama is, while he goes around one-shotting everything from goblins to dragons to Adventurers Guild bullies. And that's just the start. All told, like, half this anime's entire runtime is just people praising Kind for things he did, or maybe if the writers are feeling spicy and want to attempt some comedy, complaining that he did stuff too awesomely, with the occasional break for a cute rich girl to beg him to marry her for being so awesome. The first 2 of those actually happen at the same time, when he saves the 10-year-old third princess and her duke's daughter bestie from a whole mess of orcs, which also results in the king giving him an entire barony and a mansion. And it's a touch uncomfortable watching a child who's mentally at least in his mid-20s hit on and lose sleep over those regal grade schoolers, but the show does eventually balance that out, sorta not at all, with an age gap in the other direction by having the big titty fight slut captain of the guard, who's also a 300-year-old elvish princess, fall in love with him after he whoops her ample butt in a duel. Also, that big titty elf's name is, I shit you not here, Tijuana von Liebert. God, I love it when anime just throws European words in a blender. The wiki tells me there's at least one more fiancé inbound at some point, which would officially put Kine ahead of Ranma on that particular scoreboard, but it also indicates that his sister will eventually fall for a guy who's not him, so that's something. Though, if they cut out all the scenes of people and or gods sitting around gassing Kine up, I honestly think this anime adaptation could have already caught up to that point in the light novels. Like, in the episode where Kine invents sparkling wine and hamburgers for his mansion warming party, no less than 3 characters have their own separate Shokugeki reaction shots where they just absolutely shit their pants over how delicious both of those things are, which could get pretty messy. But then Kine also invented a magic bidet, which like 5 different people react to in that same episode. The series does have a few interesting ideas amid all the generic fluff that a better writer could have taken in some interesting directions, like how the god of commerce apparently grants divinely enforced patents, but of course it never hops off Kine's dick long enough to explore any of them. I give the aristocrats' otherworldly adventure 2 dumpsters full of suspiciously stained couch cushions with like 3 factory defect Mushoku Tensei Nendoroids hidden somewhere among them. If you're getting tired of 2-bit generic fantasy landscapes rendered in 1-bit animation at this point, I can hardly blame you, but Kamikatsu, working for God in a godless world, is the perfect antidote to what ails you. From setup to setting, this isekai tale of a bodybuilding cult leader's son reincarnated in a world with no concept of religion after a ritual gone wrong is anything but generic. Yukito didn't wish to end up in a world where ladies think hand jobs are a CPR technique, but sometimes Lord Mitama works in mysterious ways. As for the animation part of the equation, that goes so far beyond terrible that it somehow loops back around to being good again. You might not believe such a thing is even possible, but I challenge you to look at this dorky buck-toothed CGI monster, this live-action footage of a guy driving a rice harvester with a dead-eyed anime face awkwardly pasted over his head, or all this pixel art that they use in place of actually drawing the action scenes, and describe this show's production any other way. The team behind this anime clearly realized early on that they didn't have the manpower or resources to achieve anything close to quality in time for broadcast, and thus opted to instead devote everything they had to creating one giant glorious shitpost, which turns out to be an oddly good fit for the off-the-wall story they're adapting. The world that Yukito has found himself trapped in isn't just devoid of any concept of God, it's also devoid of all the typical escapist trappings he's come to expect from the isekai that he watches and reads to escape from his life as the son of a cult leader. Besides the occasional monster. Really, it's devoid of anything to do besides tilling fields and getting plastered. Magic, or possibly sufficiently advanced technology, does seem to exist, but that's all in the hands of this tyrannical empire, which dictates the lives of its citizens down to the days they die. So when Yukito and his new villager buds run afoul of that empire by not dying on their preordained day, they gotta find a way to fight back against those OP magic-wielding knights, and fast. Luckily, he has God on his side, specifically Mitama, the god of his dear old dad's cult, who possesses the vast miraculous powers to level mountains and even raise the dead. Unluckily, those powers are directly proportionate to the number and fervor of her worshippers, which currently sits at a big fat 0 on account of how much Yukito hates dear old dad. So the only way to bring those numbers up is to follow in dad's footsteps and start a cult of his own, using bribery, extortion, and good old-fashioned Barnum effect flimflammery. It's been ages since I've seen an anime premise, isekai or otherwise, this audaciously original. I think it could have been genuinely great if it weren't so aggressively, hilariously terrible. As it stands though, I've gotta give Kamikatsu one septic truck left on the tracks of the 7 p.m. fireworks and vodka express. Now, with your palates cleansed, it's at long last time for dessert. A dish so decadently disgusting, I can scarcely believe it's real. The first ever official VTuber TV anime, Kizuna no Alele, which follows a group of starry starry-eyed teens who are all quite pointedly not Kizuna Ai as they train to become VTuber elites at a special virtual high school in hopes of one day winning the prestigiously non-fungible Lappin Door Trophy. Now, the concept of an elite digital academy training the next generation of virtual YouTubers sounds, well, actually, if you know even the first thing about how VTubing works, it sounds insanely fucking boring. And indeed, watching the students go to shuffle back and forth while singing class and get assigned essays about what makes an avatar look good doesn't exactly make for compelling television, especially not when they end up shuffling back and forth while singing the show's ending theme twice in the first 2 episodes, meaning that more than 10% of the first 60 minutes of this show consists of listening to the same minute and a half of that song 4 times. And that's not even the only scene in the first episode that's just multiple minutes of poorly motion captured dancing. Though, at least when Kizuna Ai does it, there's a little bit of camera work involved. Not that she's in the show much at all. The whole plot is that Kizuna disappeared mysteriously a few years ago, and the big question that drives the story is whether she abandoned her fans or left for some other reason, with plucky Protag-chan being just about the only one left in the school who still believes in her. Well, actually, the big questions driving most episodes are stuff like, what's Protag-chan gonna eat for lunch today? But on paper, at least, that's the big one. Which I'd say is the show's biggest mistake, playing an extremely boring concept with extremely flat characters extremely straight, while the actual star that the series was made to promote stays entirely off screen, if it didn't also devote several minutes of episode 3 to shilling NFTs.
Non-fungible token
とは非代替性トークンのことです。つまりノンファンジブルトークンって代替できない暗号資産ってことで OK?
For bringing anime to that astounding new low, not to mention giving aspiring creators such god-awful advice as read the comments for valuable feedback, and filming strangers sleeping without their consent is a great idea for content. I award TinyTuber Adventures 5 concert hall trash bins full of Herbalife supplements, Cutco knives, and hastily discarded Kizuna Ai merch that is far too sweaty to ever catch fire. And that's all the trash we've got on tap tonight. If you're still hungry for more, you'll find a playlist of past episodes over that-a-way, along with a roast of the 7 deadly sins that I recently went through excruciating pains to put on your plates. Until next season, I'm Geoff Thew, trash sommelier extraordinaire, bidding you adieu.